with the big black slanted eyes that are about 4 feet tall. All right, those, let's just call them the Greys because pretty much everyone knows them as Greys. But there's another creature which people and abductees talk about that they see on board the ships, and these are tall beings, and they assume different forms. Sometimes they can appear as reptilian, other times they can appear as insectoid, other times they can appear as Nordic. In other words, in my opinion, they're shapeshifters. Now, why would I say that? What backs it up? There's a scripture, once again, from our spiritual handbook, which says that basically fallen angels can appear as angels of light if they so choose. Okay. They can appear as angels of light if they so choose. That's a shapeshifter, but it shapeshifts. It can appear as whatever it wants to appear. Insectoid, reptilian. Who knows what the thing really looks like? In my opinion, it's probably a reptilian. Apparently there was some sort of a confrontation, there was some sort of a war between these beings, sides were drawn up, and we're kind of like, we're almost like cannon fodder in a way. It's unseen war, which is happening in another dimension all around us that we don't see. So my point is this: what if the Greys are nothing more than some sort of a biological suit that enables the demons, let's say, to interface in this dimension? That's what I think the Greys are. That's why they're expendable. Me thinking, I wonder if there's some sort of like a biological clone or some sort of a, you know, a body, if you will, that these demons can interface, inhabit, and then, of course, move about in this three-dimensional time-space continuum. When you go back and you read the Book of Enoch, which, by the way, is found on the Dead Sea Scrolls, it amplifies the mischief that these fallen angels got into in and around the time of Genesis 6, which is why it was a global flood, because the Nephilim were on the earth, and these guys were all over the earth, and some of these skeletons that have been unearthed, specifically in Turkey, were over 30 feet tall. As we pushed west in Ohio and different places, they found mounds, and they would do primitive archaeological digs. And this is documented. I'm not making this stuff up. They found skeletons, oftentimes, that reached over 9 feet in length, with 6 fingers, 6 toes, and red hair.
Now, one of the great mysteries of the West is what happened to these giants. There was nearly 60 skeletons brought out of this cave, but today they're nowhere to be found. Is it that there is some kind of archaeological cover-up that has occurred here?
The main point is that that term is used of angels, fallen angels, and the offspring of those fallen angels with human women has produced a hybrid called a Nephilim. In the Hebrew, the term means the fallen ones. Also, the term is gigantes, which doesn't mean giants, it means earthborn. There was a gene pool problem on the planet Earth.
Is that where the Bible then says that Noah was perfect? He wasn't perfect as his
generations. Verse 9. He was perfect in his generations. The word
DNA.
Perfect is tamim, meaning physical defects.
You know, when you see something like that, it's overwhelming. It will change your worldview. And is that the coming great deception that ancient manuscripts warn us of? Here's a prophecy from 2,000 years ago, that what is coming on the earth will be so bizarre that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible.
An object videotaped by many and seen by thousands over several nights in the Arizona sky in 1997.
Major sighting here.
This virtual reality is much bigger than we are currently decoding, because the part of the virtual reality that we decode is visible light, which is so tiny it's ridiculous. There is vast areas, like 95 and more % of this universe, this virtual reality universe, that they call dark matter, dark energy, and various other names that are not dark at all. If you went into those realms of reality, it wouldn't be pitch black. They only call it dark because it's outside of what we call visible light. If we were in those areas of dark energy, we'd still be able to see it would be a reality because we'd be coding it into that reality. And we once, I'm absolutely convinced as I've looked at this, we once before an intervention, which is behind this control system, used to decode a much greater frequency range of this virtual reality universe.
We used to be able to do this.
Oh yeah.
So before the Atlantean times.
Well, before I would suggest this reptilian intervention came, and I'll tell you what I feel. You know, in China, they can't access vast amounts of the internet because it's firewalled off by the authorities, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's the reality that we're experiencing. People talk about dimensions and densities and all that stuff. But what decides the range of frequency that we decode into a apparent world is not the world itself. It's the receiver decoder, right?
Yeah.
It's us that decide, and the body computer system that decides how wide the frequency range of our reality is. And if you mess with it, mess with the body computer genetically, and you look at all these ancient texts and legends all over the world about the manipulation of the human form and the fall of man. The fall of man, right? Or the fall of humanity. Politically correct, you see. The fall of humanity. And look at the Bible. What's the symbolic, I would say more than symbolic, perpetrator of the fall of man? The serpent. The serpent is the oldest form by far of any worship. It's been tracked back 70,000 years so far. And you look at books that have researched serpent worship around the world, and they say the same. It is not only the oldest form of religious worship, it is the most prevalent, all-universal form of worship all over the world, if you go far enough back. And these reptilian entities that I would strongly suggest are behind this whole control system, were perceived by the ancients as gods because they had abilities to do things that they couldn't do, and so they became the center of worship. And what I suggest, and I'm writing a new book at the moment, which is, if people think what I've written so far is like far out and are crazy, well, they should read this bugger. I'm not talking about the content at the moment because there's a few dots. I want to bring it all out as one unit. But I've realized how they've done this very clearly. What they've done is hacked in to the virtual reality universe, which includes all the dark matter and dark energy and all of the universe. And they have isolated us into a tiny fraction of that virtual reality universe. In even more than symbolic terms, the very theme of it is exactly the same as firewalling off the internet in China. So the internet that we can access, the Chinese computers cannot access. Well, they've done that to humanity.
Carl Sagan, who was kind of a mainstream man in so many ways, he wrote this book, The Dragons of Eden, about the reptilian connection to humanity and human genetics. And he says in there, was the effect to understand the human's reptilian characteristics is to understand so much about human behavior. Quite right. It's in the DNA, the hard drive, which has been put in there. Now, one of the hardest things that people have to understand, and I completely appreciate it, is this idea of shape-shifting. Now, it's an ancient thing in terms of accounts all over the world, not just shape-shifting between human and reptilian, but shape-shifting between human and many different forms, animal forms, etc. And people perceive it, because we're so locked into this reality is real, as like a physical, solid human body transforming into a solid reptilian body and then back again. Because I've spoken to people all over the world, in vast numbers now, who have seen this phenomenon of seeing someone, a human, suddenly transform into a reptilian figure and then come back again. And the ancient accounts talk about the same thing. And people think, hey, it's impossible, mate. How can a body change into another body? I mean, the person would die, wouldn't they? Well, that's not what's happening. As we talked about in the first half, the only place that the physical reptilian form and the physical human form exist is in here, when their energetic form is decoded into a holographic, apparently physical form. So when something's shape-shifting, it shifts in the decoding mechanism by which we decode different energy fields. It's literally like changing a television channel. You've got the human field, which is obscuring the reptilian field, because they hide behind the human field, so we don't know what the hell's going on. And if I'm observing the human field, that's the prime field that I'm decoding, I will see a human. But if this becomes the prime field, suddenly, for whatever reason, I'm now decoding the reptilian field, the reptilian energy field. What is happening in my decoding system in my mind is I'm seeing a human physical form, reptilian physical form, human physical. Did you see that? The bloke's just changed into a bloody lizard. So it's in the decoding that shapeshifting takes place. Because there is no physical form out there. It's in here. That's where it all goes on. And this movement of energy fields is where we get confused, and it's where the decoding mechanism makes us think that very strange things are going on.